So my position on this whole thing is that it's more than likely Mercedes Lackey just fucking forgot, and that makes pretty much everybody's like excuses for what happened at that conference completely like inexcusable and incorrect. So people were basically saying after she got canceled at the conference, they were saying I'm going to defend it on the basis of the fact that I'm tired of this. Like you guys are going to say that those were different times, and yes, they were. Back when there were different times when this woman was coming up, and it was a different world back then than it is today. True, but the truth of the matter is that that's really no excuse to not be current with the times. It's just, how shall I put this? What if Mercedes Lackey did know that? What if she had read it? What if she had put in the effort to know it, and then she was at that conference, and when she was in the hot seat, literally forgot about it, and then used a bad term that she had forgotten that the world had moved on from, and now the world wanted to crucify her and put her in cancel culture over it. So I went out and I bought my copy, and to all of you who said this stupid shit like about her, like it's been 30 years, she should be current with all the stuff that's happened. I like, how many of us and among us can honestly say that they're like, because of the fact that we didn't personally care or know why we should give a shit, that there were tons of things that had come in the past 30 years that we didn't know anything about. I mean, can you honestly sit here up here and say that there's nothing that you're disinterested in, and that those things that you're disinterested in are things that have been changing for a long ass fucking time, that things, then you're not up to date with every fucking thing that changes in that world. I mean, Mercedes Lackey put in a lot of effort to be current with the times, for a long time, and to help the society along, for the historical changes that have happened over the past, 30 fucking years. She's been pushing it and agitating in a very particular direction, and I approve of that direction and have approved of it for a long time. She's been pushing for greater tolerance and inclusion for pretty much all of her writing, and now all of a sudden she says something in praise of this guy, and then not only that, that guy literally didn't have a problem with what she said, but over there at the conference that we're talking about, when it comes to the cancellation of her, she was canceled, from the Nebula conference, like the S the S the SFWA, like they removed, they turned her into a grandmaster on the same day, and then kicked her out on May 22nd, 2022. And I have seen things that have been said about her, and pretty much goddamn everything I have seen has been bad. And excuses for this and what they did. It's been truly, truly astonishing to see people, sit here and try to be like, it's been 30 years since that term changed. That term changed 30 fucking years ago, and she doesn't have any excuse to not be up with it. Man, like there have been a lot of things that have come and gone in the last 30 years that, literally first started 30 years ago that I still don't know about today. You know, I know that. I mean, I go where my interest takes me ultimately, and because of that, I've always done that, and that means that there are a lot of things that have been taking place for a long time, that and have been current for a long fucking time, and I still am not apprised of and up to date with. Like, and I'm not even unique in that regard. There's tons of people just like that, and we're all going to pretend, we're going to blind ourselves to that in order to justify what happened to her. To sit there in defense, and pretend that everybody owes society being up to date, up to the exact second on every fucking latest breaking thing that happens in the world of social justice. You know that, and if they've saw it once, that's the only reminder that they should ever need. They shouldn't need to learn that lesson again. Like we're all gonna fucking pretend that way, in order to feel good about ourselves and defend, and shitting on a woman who is basically 70, like, oh, like closer to 80 than she is fucking 70. She's like, seriously, I know that it, she's like 72, like, ugh. She's so she's not closer to 80 than she is 70, but she's old though. She's old. And my mom's around that age. Like, she was born in 1952, and like way back in, she's become very forgetful. And that's just, what happens to people, I guess, when they get old. And the I don't understand why people are trying to do this with to her. I don't get what it is that they're trying to say, because it's like they're trying to be like, she used this term and she doesn't have any excuse because the terms were different for a long time. And what, like, does everybody like owe it to everybody else to stay up to the exact fucking second on social justice terminology changing? And if she's a social justice writer that's already interested in this stuff, does she owe you perfection? Does she never get a moment where like she slips and messes up? Do people not make mistakes ever? Have who among you has never made a mistake? Who among us has never said something that we didn't really mean, that came across a little insensitive, and hurt somebody's feelings when we didn't mean to? Who among us hasn't done that? And so I went and I bought this book because it was like, this cancel culture shit has gone way too fucking far at this point. I am a bona fide member of pretty much the radical left who is fucking dating somebody who is a radical leftist at this point, because I've got, that kind of street credit for, the votes that I've made, when things came up on ballot initiatives for, voting just recently to strike, for instance, the prohibitions against, slavery being used as a punishment for a crime. Here in Oregon, we just voted to strike that from the language, and I'm proud of my vote on that stuff. I have been fighting for social justice myself. I've raised my voice in defense of gay people, in defense of trans people, even. I'm not particularly happy with the author about, excluding trans people and not yet having put forward a trans main character, okay? I'm not saying anything in defense of all that. She's pushed for a more inclusive world. I want one too. And that means that if you're going to push for that, you should probably be working, if you're an author or a writer that is writing fiction, you should probably start including some characters that have not yet been included at this point, and are, represented by not yet, having not yet been included. And I think that the market is changing. I think that interest is changing, and that it's more likely that the market in 2022 or 2022 would be interested in a book with a trans character as its main protagonist, even from Lackey herself, than we would have been, even 30 years ago. And part of the reason for that is just that it's become more real for a lot of us in, the past 30 years. Like, it's become more prescient in a big way, since this first went down. And the truth of the matter is that, just that, like, I've got a best friend now that turned out to be trans, like Michelle. I mean, I highly recommend her channel. She used to cover politics, but she got so tired of it, of the controversy, that she went over to covering mostly entertainment related content. That's what she comments on. She comments mostly on video games, and she does a bunch of Nintendo Switch stuff. And I really, I've learned from her, in that there were video games that I didn't know about that I ended up learning about from her. So she's got, credit in that, for me. She's kept me apprised of changes in that space, and I'm grateful for what she's doing, and the show that she's producing. But yeah, so I bought Lackey's book, and it was kind of as a, fuck, just, I'm not even one of the people saying go woke, go broke. I think Mercedes Lackey is pretty woke. She's just not all woke. she's not all in on being woke. So you know, like basically, at the end of the day, I felt like the conference really fucked up here by accusing her of racism. It's like Mercedes Lucky's been fighting against racism for most of her goddamn life. I mean, now we're gonna call her a racist because of one little incident on one night, after a lifelong career of fighting against that sort of thing. And she was literally telling us that a black man had written a book and that we should go read that book by him. And she just didn't use the proper terminology. And then it started to become really familiar in a way that was deeply personal and uncomfortable at that point, because it was like, I feel like a lot of the things that have happened to me that I have really some bitter feelings about at this point are that I have very much so tried at various points in my own past to reach out to the feminist and say that I agreed with them and that I approve of what they were doing, and unfortunately got this kind of response where it was just not like what they would say in response was just so aggressive and hostile that it was just like none of this makes sense. And I'm trying to say I agree with you. I did it with artistic flair that you don't approve of, that you've taken issue with. And like I'm trying. I remember like one of the situations was just approaching, expressing like not necessarily pursuing sexual relations with people that I didn't intend to keep around, not trying to engage that sort of thing with people. And I had using terminology like that people just confused. I mean, I literally like I put it in a bad way, and people just tore into me for it. And it was like, okay, we're gonna do this. There's magic words, shit, I guess. And I didn't use the magic words in the way that I expressed it. And you know, I just fuck you all sort of feeling about it. Like I said it the way that I said it. And got a fucking problem with it. You're the problem, because all I was fucking saying was that I agree with you and I'm sympathetic to your view. Like, what made you such a spoiled, rotten, entitled person that you get to dictate the terms that I use to express solidarity with you? Fuck you, accept it, and stop shaming me for doing it. So, I bought her book, because I'm sick to death of this sort of this fucking woke mob, you know, woke scolding, shit that these people push down people's throats and shove it down, because it's like what's happening here with her is woke scoldery. It's like you're woke, but you're not woke enough, and I am woker than thou, and so I'm gonna destroy you because you're not, woke. You're not woke enough for me. That's what happened here, and I have been attendant to that sort of thing and that sort of thing being done to me so often that I am literally like just already, I'm like 36. I'm going fucking nuclear on it. Like I'm done. I will cancel me over this. Fine, fuck you. I will gladly die on this fucking hill. I will not fucking change. You know, like I will not yield. You hear me? Like I'm sick of it because it turns into this, and everybody's sitting here, and I see that there is a lot of confusion here where people are saying like I don't know the terms, I don't know, like they change them up all the fucking time, and that's just it. That's exactly how I feel too. It's like I'm trying to find a way to say that I agree with these people. I think that they're you know that I agree with them, that I agree with feminism, that I agree with what their movement is trying to accomplish, that I'm good with it, and that I'm not really necessarily interested in, boning women, that I don't really have a strong tendency to want to actually keep around, and I'm trying to testify to this sort of thing, and unfortunately, like what we we get is, you've said it in a way that I don't approve of, and now because I've associated in my brain, the terminology you've used to, people being fat, I'm going to accuse you of fat shaming when you weren't even fat shaming. You were, what I had in mind, like I put it, I don't pork fat, I don't pork women that I don't intend to keep around, like I put it like that sort of thing, and I have this image in my head. These people, they think of the image that I have in head that these people, these women are pigs. Like that's why I don't screw with them. And it was just like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, that I don't sleep with people if I don't want them on a longer term basis. Like that's what I'm trying to say. And that just got blown completely out of context by somebody because they didn't like the way that I fucking said it. And I just like mm, about all that because the truth was really like, you don't get to fucking dictate to me what's in my fucking head that's making me, say the things that I've said that have unintentionally hurt you, like I know what I was thinking. I've evoked, unfortunately, a completely different image in your head than the one that was in mine. You know what I was thinking back to? I was thinking weeds. There's a scene in it where there's that conversation that takes place where the guy is just like, pigs are filthy, unclean animals, So it was about cleanliness, and it was an implication that there's something that's a little bit, to me, dirty about trying to sleep with people if you were going to be one of those sorts that got it once and never wanted it again. That's all. And I was basically crucified for it. So, I bought Miss Lackey's book because I knew what that was like.